Hey guys, it's Good Friday. Kind of want to make it short and sweet. Um, it's we were talking about going back and forth to cleaning DeKalb, that kind of thing, and special place that DeKalb was, and the people in DeKalb, and I hold them dearly. And my brother got to know him, especially because we went to clean that time and went to work for the construction company. We came back, and actually my brother came back to DeKalb, and him and a good friend of his named Rufus went back to work for Lloyd, and they were staying in the Robinsons, I guess it's boarding home, you could call it. It was a pretty cool place because you could get a room real inexpensive, and I'm talking about 3 meals a day, home cooked. So Roger went back there. I kind of stayed and cleaned for a while, milling around, and then wound up going back up there that next summer. Kind of wintered out, not a lot of work going on in the wintertime in construction. So when I came back up there and actually enrolled into Kilgore College, and spent 3 semesters there where I met my best friend Bill Bevan. But anyway, connected up with Roger, working for the weekends, working for the summer, excuse me. And of course, the go-to guy was Lloyd, so I go up to Lloyd, and he put me on for a little bit. And that's when we actually got in the fight I was telling you about, that where I'd backhand him and all that kind of stuff. That was that summer. And we actually stayed at the boarding home. And I actually, there was another bricklayer, Murphy. I can't think of his first name right now, but Murphy was a character. And he kind of got under Lloyd's wing and kind of got the big head and figured he could go on his own. So he started his own crew, and it kind of went like, came to me and said, "Hey, look, they don't have room for you here. You come work for me." I went, "Okay, fine." So we split ways, and I was working for Murphy all summer, and Rogers and Rufus were working for Lloyd. And it was kind of a neat summer. We had a blast, had a really good time. You always do with Roger. There's no doubt about it. Like I said, he's the life of the party. And that was kind of different because I wasn't used to working for anybody but Lloyd, which I'd do anything for LW. There's no doubt about it. Just a sweet soul, and got caught up in his weaknesses, and the rest is history. Everybody knows that, and we all have our weaknesses, and so I'm not here to highlight that. But to kind of put it in a perspective, we were staying at that. We were staying at the boarding home, and they'd make you lunch, and I mean, you could whatever you wanted. So my favorite deal was they had a little sausage and egg sandwich that I said, "Man, make me one of those for lunch." So they did, and they do your laundry. And so the funny part was, and I can't help it, I'm just telling a story. When Roger and I and Rufus would go to dinner, I'm in my 20s, early 20s. Roger's in his late 20s, early 30s, and Rufus is the same. And so there's 3 of us staying there, and everybody else was 75 and up. And most of them didn't have any teeth. And when it came for dinner time, they would just put their stuff on the table. I mean, it was like, God bless them. We got to know a lot of them. They're just sweet people. But boy, when it came to eat and you're in your 20s, I mean, you just put your head down and ate. You didn't look up because it was hard to take. And we would all get to giggling and laughing at the dinner table. And we just kind of got out of there and went about our way and go to Oklahoma and, get a 6-pack and get some pickled eggs and some hot links. Oh baby, we would get the hot links, and so that was really cool. We had a great time doing all that, and then I went back to school. There's a great picture. I'm going to put together a whole collage of pictures, and mostly for the family, but I'm also going to do it for everybody that's on the YouTube deal. And it's kind of a collage of just pictures of Roger, and from baby all the way to, just before he died. And so I'm hoping to get that out in the next week or so. I'm not a techie by any means, but I kind of want to do it right. So my wife's helping me, thank God, my completer. And so we're going to work on that. We'll get that out there. But my point was, that's when everybody kind of in DeKalb got to know Roger. Oh, you're Ward's brother. And that's kind of how things work, isn't it? They get to know you, and you're somebody's relative, or you're Johnny's friend or Frank's friend. Oh, that's who you are. So they kind of got to know him, and how much fun he was, and it was just one of those times. And there's a great picture of me, my dad, my younger brother Bobby, and my and Roger. And I had a Triumph TR6 that I was in college with, and we're sitting on the back of that, and everybody was in DeKalb at the time visiting, and so I don't know, my dad made a special trip with my little brother for some reason, I can't remember what it was, but we took a photograph, and it was actually I was taking photography in Kilgore and loved it, and it was black and white. And so I got my camera, my tripod, and set up with the timer on it, and I actually developed the film myself. So it was kind of fun to do all that kind of stuff. And we used to make some crazy stuff, like get people to do stuff with no film and a camera. Those are different stories for another time, but that was a great picture, and there's a football. My brother, or one of us, is holding a football. My younger brother, I think, Bobby, or my older brother. But I just got through throwing they always want me to throw some passes, so I just got through throwing some passes to Roger. And that's one thing about Roger. He had a lot, we all do, somewhere down the line. But we have a lot of Cherokee blood in our family. And Roger had a lot of that because, to the day he died, I think he had 2 hairs on his chest. And he very rarely had any, he didn't have any gray hair. It was just one of those things. And so brings me to the memory of my Uncle James, and he was a very wise, smart man, and did a lot of great things financially for himself and his family and his wife. And I looked up to him for that. Helped me get out of debt with an insurance company, and I was getting checks after I left the company because he helped me do that. At the time he was doing it, I didn't like it, but he could see the future. Anyway, just to a little lighten up on the Cherokee Indian blood, just kind of a little funny. It's not to do with Roger, but Roger and Uncle James were a lot alike, though, to be honest with you. But James asked me one day, as you can see, I've got white hair. I've had it for a while. And James asked me, he goes, "Hey, man, how come you got gray hair?" And that was like 15 years ago. And he had, like my dad, he had a little gray on his sideburns. That was it. And he said, "Yeah, what's the deal there? You're looking older than I am with your hair there." And I said, James, scripture says that the gray hair and white hair shows wisdom. And I said, "I guess I'm wiser than you." He didn't take that very well. But I said, "I'm just kidding, but that's what scripture says." And anyway, that's kind of how Roger was. He'd talk like that, and he'd come back on him, but that kind of stuff. But this is going to be short and sweet. This is a very special weekend. This is Good Friday. you can go into all the 24-hour blah blah whatever you want, but Sunday's Resurrection Sunday, and Roger did believe, and he did. He spent a lot of time with my grandmother, Grandmother Kirk, my dad's mom, and she was probably the most spiritual woman I ever knew in my life. I mean, deep visions, spoken tongues, really Christian woman that had the David heart for God. And Roger got to spend a lot of time with her one-on-one, which I wished I could have done, because before I became a Christian, I never got to do that. But after I became a Christian, she was already had passed on to be with the Lord. So he got a lot of that, and I know it influenced him greatly. He talks about it a lot. My Granny Ward, same thing, just an unbelievable spiritual woman, and just believed in the Lord, and big influence. We're talking about influence a few episodes back. People influence you, then they really did. And Grandmother Kirk had a big influence on Roger, and I think it was when he first grew a conscience. Because I think up to that point, he didn't have a conscience. I mean, he would just do things on the whim. His good friend Larry Longino's sharing some old stories with me, which I'd love to share with you guys in the future, of Roger growing up in Horatio in that area. Him and Jim Graves, anyway, Larry and James Graves, James Graves and Roger did a lot of running around as teenagers, and Roger knew him, even Larry knew Roger even before teenager years in Horatio when we all lived there. Dear to our heart, good soul. But he has these phenomenal stories that are just, you could write a book on it. I mean, hopefully I'll memorize one of them and tell you some of the stories, Some of these, I could tell you a bunch of stories, but they're not, I mean, this is PG, or PG-13. So, there's a lot of stuff I could say that probably shouldn't be said anyway. You just had to have been there. It's the way it is. But anyway, like I said, I love my brother, and I told everybody I'd say something about him. But every evening until we get to celebrate his life together as a family and friends. But on this Good Friday, everybody has good in them, if they know the Lord. Like I said, if you have love, you have God. And if you don't have love, you don't have God, because God is love. And so, with that, that's where we all are, and it's a struggle. It's, our flesh and our spirit fight each other for control all the time. But when you get older, your spirit should be taking over. It really should. And, your soul should serve your spirit. And, that's where the glory to God comes from. But, anyway, like I said, this is a big spiritual weekend for me. I probably won't do anything tomorrow, and I probably won't do anything. If I do anything Sunday, it'll have to do with the Lord. But I'm probably just going to take a couple days off and come back Monday. Let everybody enjoy their family, and I know those are people who we're having fun doing this, and I am too. But this is a time to just get close, and this to me has nothing to do with Roger. This rest of this weekend has nothing to do with me. It has to do with the Lord, and so everybody reflect on that, and we'll come out of this with a whole new perspective on life. I do believe this is a good thing, because in Romans 8:28 it says God takes all things and works them to the good of those who love Him and do His work, and so He can take evil things and make it glorify Him. So He can do anything. He's a creator. God can do anything. And when you get to where you can say that like a 10-year-old, then you have childlike faith, and that's where everybody needs to be. But back to Roger on some humorous notes. We used to get together and play harmonica, and then we would play, like we'd be in a party, sing, do your thing. We didn't have much of a repertoire. Roger would sing his stuff, Skinny Legged Woman, and every once in a while when I get a chance, we do, Sucker Bait Love and all that kind of stuff. But we knew these songs, and one of them, and I don't know if these were the 50s or 60s, it was somewhere around there. I'm not a singer, but we would sing this. One of them was called Sweet Pea, and we would harmonize together, if you can imagine that. But we had a blast doing it, and the song kind of goes, "Oh, sweet pea, won't you be my girl? Won't you be my girl?" That's how it starts. And it says, "I went to the dance just the other night. I saw a girl there, she was out of sight. I asked a friend of mine who she could be. He said all her friends just call her Sweet Pea. Oh, Sweet Pea, won't you be my girl? Won't you be my girl?" And then it goes on, and it's a really cool song, because if you guys look it up, and it was like I wanted to get a dance with Sweet Pea, but every guy there was thinking like me. And I had to stand in line to get a dance with Sweet Pea. And then it goes on and says, "I finally got to whisper sweet words in her ear. And I said, hey, why don't we get away from here? Out under the stars, I said, hey, Sweet Pea, won't you be my girl?" So you got to ask her that. So it was kind of one of those hokey songs like that. Roger and I would sing it and harmonize together. And it was kind of fun. Another one we would sing was called Sad Movies. I don't know where this came from, but it was, and I can barely remember it. I was trying to remember it today. But it kind of goes like, my boyfriend called me on the telephone. And Roger, we do the back, and Roger go, phone. You repeat it like that, and it says, said he had to work, so I went to the show alone. And the catchphrase of it was, sad movies always make me cry. And sad movies always make me cry. You can probably Google it these days and pull that thing up too. It's an unbelievable song. And then it went on to, it was like, I got to the picture show. I mean, this is probably 40s or 50s song. And when I got there, sitting on the front row was my lover and my best friend. That's why sad movies always make me cry. But that was one of my fondest memories. Roger and I would sing that together. And I could, if I'm not leading, I can follow and harmonize. Otherwise, my kids, I'm in church, my kids are trying to look at me and go, God, Dad. I go, look, it says make a joyful noise unto the Lord. It doesn't say you have to sing in key. Like I said, I'm tone deaf. The key of C is the only thing I know. In memory of my brother Roger, I want to sing a little. I probably won't sing it all. I know some old songs, but I'll come up with one next week. But like I said, I'll leave you again with a little harmonica. What do you call it? Improv. You can't write this down, but it's just playing from the heart. Ooh. Love you guys. See you Monday. Resurrection Sunday. Peace be with you.